Welcome to the Writer's Hour, where we have creative conversations with up-and-coming authors on their latest books. This is the place to be if you wish to get a preview of new books that are available for the voracious bibliophile, as well as the story behind the story for the voyeur who wishes a peek behind the creative curtain. Here's your host, Janine Bolon.
Welcome to today's show, everyone. I'm Janine Bolon. Today we're going to talk about the 5 major lessons that I've learned over my last 15 years of writing. And with that writing, I just want to let you know that I went through many life transformations as well as different phases of my life. And now I'm standing here as the author of 9 books and 4 different newsletters or blogs. And it's just, I constantly am writing. And so now I can officially call myself, I guess, a professional writer because I get paid to do what I do. So there you go. But there's a lot of transformation that happens when you decide that it's time for you to write. And I just wanted to talk about some of the major pieces of advice that are out there, and then the ways that you can use them in your own life to deal with your own situations. So first of all, make the decision to start calling yourself a writer. And people say, oh, what do? You can say whatever your occupation happens to be, but also start including, and I'm a writer, because people are going to find that intriguing. A lot of people say that they're going to write their story or write their book, and they never do. And so we want you to become that person that actually does write their story, whatever that is, however that works for you. So the first piece of advice that I was given is you have to write every day. And I understand that for some writers, it's almost a obsession or compulsion that they feel that unless they write every day, they're not really doing what they need to be doing. For me, I found I didn't have to write every day, but I did have to write. And so I set up a schedule for myself, and I would sit there for an hour, and whether I typed anything or not was not the point, but I would sit and get ready, or I would get ready to write, or I would write. Now I'm going to go on to the next tip that flows beautifully with the next tip, which is stream of consciousness writing. Because I had an idea of the book I wanted to write, I was very clear on what I wanted to share with the people that were going to read it. But my challenge was I really didn't know anything about writing in general. And so I'd always actually been told I was a bad writer. I had learned English 3 different ways. And when I got back to the United States, because my dad was in the military, I realized that I wrote mainly what we called the King's English, or technically now the Queen's English. And so I had a lot of incorrect spelling. And so my spelling was so atrocious that, I never dreamed I would ever be a professional writer, to be quite honest. But one of the tools that I used was stream of consciousness writing, where for that hour, I would sit there and just type. I would force myself to write garbage. And one of the things that came out of that is my stream of consciousness writing wasn't a journaling. Some people say, okay, I journal, I talk about my day, blah, blah, blah. For some writers, that's very helpful. For me, I have to get a lot of stuff out of my head. And so I'll sit, and there were times that I had 3 pages of stuff that was like, this is stupid. I should never be a writer. No one's ever going to read what I write. This is awful. I can't believe I'm sitting here doing this. This is agony. Why am I putting myself through this? And what was interesting is that when I would pause with my hands over the keys, then answers would come. There's somebody out there that needs what you are writing. There's somebody out there that is going to read what you write, and it's going to inspire them to create in their own way. Someone needs the lessons that you've learned from this. There are people who need what you have to write. And then I would combat that with, yes, but why would anybody want to do that with me? Because there's all these other people that have written, because at the time I was writing about money. And there are plenty of money books out there, I assure you. And I was just overwhelmed. It's a good thing I didn't have Instagram yet. Instagram hadn't been created yet, because if I had Instagram, I would have caught myself just scrolling, look at everybody else's content. I never would have got ahead on my own, right? So one of the things I want to share with you is how to get ahead of all that. Don't pay attention to what other people are doing. Just realize that what you have to share, what you have to create with the world, you have an audience waiting for you to do that. And that's actually what helped me. Okay, so the thing about write every day, set up a schedule where you will write. Now, I write Monday through Friday, and then I take Saturday and Sunday off. But you know what? I'm usually getting ideas during that time. So the point is, set up a schedule for yourself and then stick to your schedule. And if you have difficulty sticking to your schedule, then join a group where they have a schedule and you're writing with that group. I'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, so that was item 1 and item 2 that kind of merged together. When you're writing every day, just do stream of consciousness writing so that you get answers to your own questions. And it's funny how you will answer yourself and you will start to find that there is an arena or an area that you want to write in. Step 3 is drop the head trash. And I already talked a little bit about this, but let's go into this further. There's a lot of fears and self-analysis that happens when you decide that you're going to publish your work. Every single artist, creative, sculptor, musician, writer, I don't care what it is. If you are creating something that's totally your own, like you haven't plagiarized off anybody, you may have used people for inspiration or reference, but you're really creating it with your own hands, with your own thoughts, with your own voice. When you're in the process of creating, there's head trash. Every artist knows about this. This is why writers hang with writers, musicians hang with musicians. We understand the internal battle every single one of us goes through, because in order to get to the point where you're not just creating for yourself, but you're actually creating for others, there is a lot of things that you have to get through. There's a lot of self-imposed fear. And with that, how do you go about dropping the head trash? And that thing is, it really is the focus of moving into step 4, which is focus on the reader, the person who needs what you have to offer. Now, everyone on this planet has a story, but only 3% share it. I know you would never believe that with the sheer volume of books that are being published every day, but I assure you, those books would not be published if there weren't eager people to read them. And I just want to let you know how imperative it is that you share your story. If you have no idea what to write about, but you know you're supposed to write a book, like you feel a compulsion, you feel I should write a book. If you've ever heard that or you felt that, would you please do it? There's somebody out there in the world, and I will assume there's thousands of somebodies, because we have almost 8 billion people on planet now. I assure you, if you are writing, there are very engaging readers that want what you have, but they can't find it. And so you need to build what it is that you feel, that compulsion to build. That story that you have inside. There are life lessons you have learned, and you have a very unique perspective. And some people are like, yeah, but everybody has a unique perspective. Yeah, but nobody is going to write quite your way. So it's imperative that you do that for yourself. The last tip that I wanted to is just decide to publish your work. Now, the reason why I encourage you to publish your work is that you can decide, yes, I'm going to write. You can even have the habit of writing every day. You can even have the habit of building your book. But until you give yourself a deadline, until you give yourself a target, I like to call them goals or targets instead of deadlines, but if you give yourself a target of when to complete it by, and then you join a group where you say that out loud and they encourage you into getting to that, then it will help you very much. So those are the 5 steps to becoming the writer that you have always dreamed about. You write every day. If you don't write that doesn't necessarily mean 7 days a week. It means you're focused on doing something with writing every day. So I physically write 5 days a week. That does not include email, by the way. Some people try to cheat with that. But what you do is you set yourself up a schedule, and then the days of the week where you're not physically writing, you're working on improving your craft. You're either reading or you're learning software to help you get better at your writing. The second thing is, with your stream of consciousness writing, just write. It doesn't matter what you're writing. Put garbage on the paper. Just make sure that you do that garbage for an hour. And then the third thing is drop the head trash. It doesn't matter what type of obstacles are in your head. The thing is that they are excuses. Anytime you have a fear, anytime that anything tries to block you from your goal to being a writer, realize that you're finding an excuse, you're not finding a way. And that's what I always focus on. You find a way around it. Find a way. I'm going to find a way. But you don't know how to, and then fill in the blank. And you're like, no, I'm going to find a way. So number 4 is focus on that reader. There's somebody there that out there in that world that needs what you have to write. And number 5, decide to publish your work. Because when you decide to start your blog, to start a newsletter, to build that book and publish it, that is when it gets real. and I want you to encourage you to join a group. And it just so happens I happen to have a group, and what we do is we meet twice a month. And for $37 a month, we will help you write your book in a year. And it's literally called a book a year program, because that's the one I'm on. Is I've been on writing a book a year. And what's ended up happening is now I'm writing 2 books a year. And there are some years where I've written 4 books in a year. And so I just wanted to share with you that when you start letting go of all that head trash that is floating around, you'll be able to make it. So go ahead and join my website, and we'd love to have you there. You can go to JanineBolon.com/book a year and just smash it all together, book a year, and you'll see how you can join the little writers group that I have that will encourage you to get your book done in a year. All right. Talk to you soon. Have a great day, and go back to that writing.
Thank you for listening to the Writer's Hour. To hear more about the creative conversations that Janine Bolon is sharing with her listeners, please visit JanineBolon.com/guest.